I woke up to a machine beeping and my son telling me I didn't have a home anymore. Let that sink in. Not confusion, not a misunderstanding. He said it like a fact. Flat, rehearsed, already decided. My name is Cressida Halvern. I'm 74 years old, and I have lived in the same house for 38 years. I buried my husband from that house. I raised my son, Dorian, in it. Every creak in the floor, every mark on the wall, I know where it came from. So tell me, how does a woman lose her home while she's unconscious? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The last thing I remember before the hospital was the smell of burnt toast. I had been standing in my kitchen, annoyed at myself for forgetting the timer. Then the room tilted. My hand slipped off the counter, and everything went black. 9 days. That's how long I was gone. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the ICU, tubes in my arms, my chest tight, my body heavier than it had ever felt. And standing beside me, my son. But something was wrong. He didn't smile. He didn't say, "Mom, you're okay." He just stood there, like he was waiting for something. "Dorian," I remember whispering. My throat felt like sandpaper. "What happened?" "You had a stroke," he said. Quick, clean, no emotion. I nodded slowly, trying to process it. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "When can I go home?" That's when he hesitated. Just for a second. But I saw it. And then he said it. "You can't go back there." I blinked at him, certain I had misheard. "What do you mean I can't go back?" His jaw tightened. His eyes flicked away from mine. "The house, it's not yours anymore." My heart didn't race. It didn't drop. It just stopped making sense. I stared at him, waiting for the explanation, for the correction, the apology, the something that would make it logical. Instead, he added, "It belongs to Lena's parents now." Lena, his wife, her parents. I felt something cold settle into my chest. "What did you do?" I asked him, slowly, carefully, while I was unconscious. And the way he didn't answer me, that was the moment I knew. Something had been taken from me, and no one was planning to give it back. "So you're telling me I gave my house away?" That was the first thing I said the next morning, and the silence that followed, that told me more than any answer ever could. Dorian stood near the window, arms crossed, staring anywhere but at me. Lena was there too, hovering, adjusting flowers that didn't need adjusting, pretending this was normal. "You signed the papers before the stroke," Dorian said finally. Simple, clean, convenient. I let that sit for a moment. Then I asked, "When?" He hesitated, just enough. "A few days before." A lie doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it's the pause that gives it away. Because I knew exactly what I'd been doing a few days before. Paying my bills, watering my plants, living my life. Not signing away my house to people who had no place in it. And Lena, she finally spoke. "It was what you wanted, Cressida. You said you didn't want to be alone anymore." Her voice was soft, practiced, like she'd rehearsed it. I turned my head slowly and looked at her. "Then why don't I remember it?" That question hung in the air. No one answered. Instead, Lena changed the subject, asking the nurse about my medication, my discharge timeline, anything to steer the conversation away from the truth. That's when I noticed something else. She kept calling it their house. Not mine, not even ours. Their house. Little things like that. They don't slip out by accident. They reveal what people already believe. Over the next 2 days, I asked for details again and again. Documents, a lawyer's name, witnesses. Every time I got something different. It was handled quickly. You were very clear about it. You trusted us to take care of things. Contradictions stacked on top of each other, and then something slipped. A nurse came in while they were gone. Young, nervous. She checked my chart, then looked at me like she wanted to say something, but shouldn't. "You were admitted suddenly," she murmured. Suddenly. No preparation. No planning. So when exactly had I calmly signed legal documents? That night, after they left, I stared at the ceiling and let the pieces settle. Something wasn't just wrong. It was manufactured. The next morning, a hospital admin came in briefly, dropping off a folder at the edge of my bed before rushing out. They must have thought it belonged to someone else. I wasn't supposed to see it, but I did. And when I opened it, slowly, carefully, I found a document stamped and signed. At the top, in bold letters, "Property Transfer Authorization, signed by proxy." My fingers went cold. Proxy? I never assigned one. So tell me, who signed my life away, using my name? If I didn't sign it, then who did? That question didn't leave my mind, not for a second. I kept staring at the document, my fingers tracing the words like they might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Signed by proxy. That wasn't just a mistake, that was a method. When Dorian came back later that day, I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I folded the paper neatly and placed it back where I found it. Then I looked up at him and gave him something he wasn't expecting. A small smile. "You've done a lot for me," I said quietly. "Thank you." He froze. Just for a moment, but I saw it. Because that's the thing about people who think they've gotten away with something. They don't know how to react when you stop resisting. From that moment on, I changed. No more questions, no more pushing. I let them talk around me. Let Lena call it their house. Let Dorian pretend everything was settled. And while they relaxed, I started paying attention. A hospital social worker named Annika began checking in on me. Routine, polite, careful. But I noticed how her eyes lingered when I mentioned discharge plans. "Where will you be staying?" she asked one afternoon. "With my son," I replied. That wasn't a lie, it just wasn't the full truth. Later, when we were alone, I lowered my voice. "I need you to look at something," I said. I showed her the document. She didn't react immediately, professionals don't, but I saw the shift. The slight tightening in her jaw, the pause before she spoke. "This doesn't look standard," she admitted. That was enough. Over the next day, she quietly dug into my records. And what she found? It didn't add up. No registered power of attorney, no court-appointed guardian, no documented consent from me. Yet somehow, my house had been transferred. Fast. Too fast. When she told me that, something inside me didn't break. It sharpened. Because now it wasn't just suspicion, it was structure, a plan. And then came the part that nearly made me laugh. Dorian had already started moving my belongings out. Not waiting, not asking, acting like it was already permanent, like I wasn't coming back. That's when I made my decision. If they wanted me to be weak, if they thought I was confused, I would let them believe it. "Can you contact a lawyer?" I asked Annika quietly. She nodded. 2 days later, a man walked into my room, calm, observant, precise. Gideon Rusk. He reviewed everything in silence, every page, every signature. And then he looked at me and said, "This transfer might be illegal." Might. One word, heavy with possibility. I leaned forward slightly. "What do you need?" He didn't hesitate. "Proof that this wasn't just unauthorized," he paused, "but intentional." And right then, I realized something. I might already have it. What if I told you I recorded everything? Gideon didn't react right away when I said that. He just watched me, carefully, like he was measuring whether I understood the weight of what I was claiming. And I did. Because 3 years ago, after a break-in on my street, I had security cameras installed inside my house. Not just outside, inside. Living room, hallway, kitchen. Dorian knew about them. But here's what he forgot. They didn't store footage locally. They uploaded everything remotely. Untouched, uneditable, waiting. "I need access," Gideon said. "You'll have it," I replied. The next 24 hours felt longer than the 9 days I was unconscious. Because this time, I wasn't waiting to wake up. I was waiting to confirm. When Gideon returned, he brought a laptop. Annika stood quietly near the door as he set it down in front of me. "No assumptions," he said. "We watch everything." So we did. At first, nothing. Just ordinary days, me moving through my home, Dorian visiting, Lena scrolling on her phone. Normal. Too normal. Then Gideon paused the screen. Here. The timestamp. 2 days before my stroke. The footage played. Lena's voice came first. "If something happens to her, you'll have temporary authority." Dorian shook his head. "That's not how it works." Then another voice, Harold. "It works if no one questions it." The room went quiet. Even through the screen, you could feel it. That wasn't confusion. That was planning. We kept watching. Hours of footage condensed into minutes. And then, another clip. This one made my hands go still. Dorian sat alone at my dining table. Papers spread out in front of him. My papers. He held one up, studying my signature. Then slowly, he picked up a pen and tried to copy it. Once, twice, again, practicing, perfecting. I didn't speak. I didn't react. Because there was nothing left to confirm. Gideon closed the laptop gently. "That's intent," he said. "Not suspicion, not theory, intent." From that moment, everything moved quickly. Documents were prepared, evidence compiled, legal filings initiated. But Gideon stopped me before anything was submitted. "One more thing," he said. We need him to commit to it, openly. I understood immediately, not just what he did, but what he believed. 2 days later, I was discharged. Dorian came to pick me up. He smiled this time, relieved, comfortable, certain. But instead of driving me home, he pulled into a small apartment complex. "This will be better," he said. "For everyone." I stepped out slowly, leaning on my cane, and looked at the building. Then I turned to him, calm, steady. "Say it clearly," I told him. He frowned. "What?" I held his gaze. "The house." A pause. Then he said it. "You don't live there anymore." I nodded once. "Good," I replied quietly. Then I reached into my bag. "Because I needed you to say that out loud." Dorian's expression shifted. For the first time, he stepped back. "You should have waited." That's what I told him. Not loudly, not angrily, just plainly. Dorian stared at me, confusion flickering across his face, but it didn't last long. Because a second later, another car pulled into the lot behind us, and out stepped Gideon. Calm, precise, already holding a folder. Everything changed in that moment. "You said it yourself," I continued, looking directly at my son. "I don't live there anymore." Gideon stepped closer, opening the folder. "And that statement," he said evenly, "combined with documented evidence, completes a pattern of fraudulent intent." Dorian's face drained. "What are you talking about?" he snapped. But it was already unraveling. Because Gideon didn't argue. He presented. The forged signatures, the absence of legal authority, the accelerated transfer timeline, and then the footage. Not all of it, just enough. Lena's voice, Harold's suggestion, Dorian practicing my signature. Layer by layer, the illusion collapsed. 1. Logical payoff. The truth was simple. While I was unconscious, they used that window, those 9 days, to fabricate authority Dorian didn't have. He posed as my proxy, forged my consent, and transferred ownership of my home to Lena's parents under false claims of emergency control. No power of attorney, no legal guardianship, no consent. Just opportunity and intent. Within days of filing, the court issued an emergency injunction. The property transfer was voided. Legally, it was as if it had never happened. My house was mine again. 2. Emotional payoff. Dorian tried to speak. I didn't think. I was going to fix it. It wasn't supposed to. I raised my hand, and he stopped. "You didn't think I'd wake up," I said. There was no anger in my voice. That's what made it land. Lena said nothing. Her eyes stayed on the ground. Harold and Morel? Silent. Smaller than I'd ever seen them. And me? I felt steady. Not broken, not even surprised anymore, just clear. 3. Consequence payoff. The consequences didn't wait. Dorian was formally charged with forgery and fraud. Lena was pulled into the case through recorded discussions. Harold and Morel faced civil penalties and were forced to relinquish any claim immediately. Socially, it spread fast. Family members stopped answering Dorian's calls. His workplace suspended him pending investigation. Friends distanced themselves. There was no quiet escape from what they did. And I didn't intervene. I let it unfold. Fully. 4. Final resolution moment. 3 weeks later, I walked back into my house. The air felt different. Some furniture was gone, a few things were out of place, but it was mine. Every wall, every floorboard. I changed the locks that same day, updated my will, assigned a legally verified representative, someone who couldn't be replaced by convenience or timing. That evening, I sat in my living room. The same spot where I used to drink tea, the same window where the light always falls just right. My phone rang. Dorian. I looked at it, watched it, listened to it ring until it stopped. Then I set it face down on the table. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just silence. And for the first time since I woke up, control.